Welcome back, 2017 iCast. I'm Pete Gluzek, Bass University TV Live. We just talked with the Future Angler of the Year out to Phil, which was amazing, and we're switching gears and we're getting into something that is, man, it's sweeping the nation, and it's kayak fishing. And I have here with me Drew Gregory from Jackson Kayaks. Right. And I appreciate you being with me on the show.
Hey man, glad to be here. And I got to follow Out to Foe. I mean, seriously.
Let's get we got to get your mic.
Oh, here we go.
Up closer. Up
you guys
tighter.
got me here. All right. What I was saying though, it's tough to. Here we go, a little higher. You guys got me.
There we go. I think
that
that's
better.
Good. Yeah.
All right. All right. Well,
is that good, guys? We got a little audio glitch. They don't even have their headsets on, but no, that's good. Anyway, thanks for being here with me, and thanks for being part of the Bass University live broadcast. And I'm really excited to have you as they're working on your microphone and getting it all situated there. I mean, we're gonna have to keep working on it.
Hey, I've got a really small head. Every hat size.
Here's what the problem is. Let me see this. There, I'm gonna get into some technical difficulties.
There we go.
There's what the problem is. Now we got
that explains it. Put that one on the blooper reel right there.
Welcome to live television, people. That's right. That's how we roll.
That will not be edited.
Nothing but the best for Bass University Live.
That's right.
But Drew, hey man, kayak fishing is sweeping the nation, man. It's amazing, and you're part of the scene.
You know, if you think about it, kayak fishing really even has a broader just possibility of growth than any other aspect of fishing, because even the cheapest kayaks out there, you can get some for a couple $100, you know?
Yeah.
Brand new. I mean, you can go on Craigslist and find them for a couple $100, and that opens it up to so many people. So if you have enough money, let's say you're going to go buy a $30,000, $40,000 bass boat, you definitely have enough money to go pick up a $1,000, $2,000 kayak as well, because it allows you to access other water that, you know, traditional boats can't get to everything, and they're great. Right. So the fact that those folks that can afford those kind of watercraft, bigger boats, can also access kayaks and afford a kayak, plus the folks that obviously can afford bigger boats are going to want to get in kayaks and fish in cool places like this too. It opens up to the potential is just so greater. Literally, it's like every person that fishes is a potential customer for a kayak.
Right, absolutely. And it's created an opportunity there, I think, for the guys that love bass fishing, but man, they're college kids or their family men that don't have the resources to get themselves into a $60,000 boat and truck.
Exactly.
And it lets them get on the water.
Exactly.
You know?
No, I mean, it's super quick and easy. You can just drop a kayak in anywhere. You don't have to have a boat launch, obviously. And there's a lot of advantages to kayak fishing. You've got, for example, some of the biggest ones, obviously the cost, which we're talking about. Mm-hmm. The fact that you get out there and can access fish that are unpressured. You know, how many of these lakes these days are reservoirs? We've grown this sport, right? You guys have done a great job growing bass fishing to where it is today, to the point where there's a lot of pressure out there, and it's become it's turned some people off, and they want to find a way to kind of avoid that pressure. And so a kayak can do that. You can access water with unpressured fish. And believe me, you get in a river, I mean, you go river bassing, you're going to find a lot of dumb fish, and a lot of big dumb fish, and they're super aggressive because they have to be with the current. And you also see a lot of wildlife and animals out there. And then, of course, one of my favorite positives about the sport is the fact that you get exercise. And who doesn't want to be more fit than they are right now, right? And burn some calories and be very athletic.
I'd have a hard time being more fit than I am right now, but I can appreciate the sentiment. But that is certainly a big asset to it, right? You know, you're out there, you're either pedaling or you're paddling. Right. You're an active participant. And you're stealth.
Very stealth. That's another one we always bring up, the stealth. Good point. Super quiet.
And that you know, I remember when I first started fishing, the nature experience was such a big thing, you know, because you were a fisherman that's quiet.
You're exactly right.
I mean, you hear the bird, you hear everything. It's like super quiet. And boy, that's got to be a really neat part about slipping that kayak.
Absolutely,
you know?
Absolutely. I've seen so many different animals out there and seen so many cool things happen on the water just by being just so calm and still. It's just like when you hunt, you go out there and you're calm and quiet, and even with fishing on any boat, it never hurts to be even quieter, right? But surprisingly, I mean, you can get up there and be stealthy and still stand in these kayaks. At Jackson Kayak, we make the majority of ours are all standing watercraft, and people hear
surprising.
kayak. It is surprising. They hear kayak when this first started. When I tell people I kayak fish, they think whitewater kayak. They think that they're in this skirt and this little dinky little thing, and it's not that way. Even though Jackson Kayak started out as a whitewater kayak company, we teamed up. Oh man, 6, 7, could have been 8 years ago now, and I came on board to do the fishing side. And man, you can stand in them. We have cool little seats that sit you up higher and lower, and that was actually one of the ideas that I'd come up with for the very first kayak we did with Jackson, which was my signature series model, the Coosa.
Okay.
And since then, we've just blown up and exploded, and the industry as a whole has exploded. But definitely get out there and check it out. Super stable, wide kayak. You can flip and pitch from them. You can do whatever.
Well, see, that's surprising to me when I first started looking at kayak fishing. That's what I thought. I can't stand up. I'm in a very delicate, flotation here. But the Fluke Master was just talking to us about his kayaks and how he stands and fishes out of them, and that's definitely that's a great asset, because as a bass fisherman, a lot of us we stand all day, so we're used to standing and not used to sitting and fishing. So to have the stability is amazing.
It makes the transition easy. If you've been a bass fisherman out of a bass boat, it makes it really easy now that you can see that it's very similar. You can stand and get up there and use all the same techniques, and now you're just doing it and potentially in waters that are very low pressure. So, and Gene's one of our guys at Jackson Kayak too, and does a great job, as you guys know, on instruction out there. And we have a kayak that can hold a person of any size. I mean, trust me, it's out there for you. If you're doubting that you can do it, you need to go out there and get to some of these dealer shops. They've got demo days. They've got demo models. Jackson Kayak makes sure our dealers have demo models. You can actually just take it for a weekend, borrow it basically, and test out several, and then make the correct choice for you. Because some people may think they need the widest, most stable kayak, but maybe you don't. Maybe you don't need a kayak even as big as you think you do. So, because the lighter weight it is, the easier it's going to be to transport and get to and from the water. I do a lot of river bassing, so a lot of bridge embankments are steep, and it's kind of tough to get in. So a lighter weight kayak's going to help you out there.
Now you're a designer. You came in to design a lot of these kayaks.
Right.
How did you? I mean, where does that skill set come from?
Well, I'm sort of the designer of the kayaks the same way. David Walker just has his new signature series, Jigs Out with Z-Man. He gives his input and whatever. He's the pro angler.
And the features that he wants to see in the kayak.
I'd grown my name in the sport of kayak fishing, and eventually it led me to Jackson Kayak, where I could kind of give my input to them on what features are going to need to be in the kayak, and the high-low seating and rod stagers and tackle stagers, paddle stagers, just places for all of your gear to go that made sense to the angler and spoke to the angler. So that's sort of how I got the connection with Jackson Kayak and started, you can call it designing, whatever you want, but bottom line is it's the input to make the features that's going to sell it to the anglers. And we have a great design team and architects that actually really get down there with their hands and really are digging and working on the prototypes and grinding out, working every day at the factory. Just an awesome team at Jackson Kayak with just so many years of experience in the kayak manufacturing industry.
Right. Well, you said Coosa is your model. Are you from that area?
Well, I'm from
Coosa
the
River?
Southeast, so I grew up in Atlanta and definitely fished the Coosa River. Yeah. And we chose Coosa as the name of that original kayak because it certainly was a very river-friendly hull on the kayak and river-focused kayak, and it's got a drag chain on the back. Drag chain shoots, and a drag chain is basically the way we slow ourselves down. One of the ways, obviously, we use power pole micro anchors as well. But it was a very river focused. So I was thinking, what's a good name for this kayak?
Right.
And Coosa just had an awesome ring to it. It just sounds good, right? And it was a hit right off the bat. But I love fishing rivers. That's kind of where I cut my teeth. Like many of you guys out there, just wading creeks when you were a kid. Mm-hmm. You just fell in love with it. And the adventure is what it's really all about, and what river bassing is all about to me. When I'm doing that kayak fishing, it's all about the adventure. I just got bored of seeing the same dock and the same stuff on lakes over and over. And certainly we were catching fish and having fun, but man, I got into a river and they fight so much harder.
They're
more aggressive. And
I love that.
Nobody else is there.
Yeah.
And it's just me. And then the cool thing is you can do about 4, 5, 6 miles of river in a day. You kind of don't want to bite off a little bit more than that. But if you think about it, how long is the Coosa River? How long are those rivers? It could take you, years and years to even cover just one river, and you got something new and wild to see every time. What's around the next river bend? I feel like an explorer, like I'm Columbus or Ponce de Leon. It's like you just really do. You feel like a kid again, like you're just exploring something new, like you're the first person that's ever set foot in that river. But that's kind of where my love for rivers came from, and why we ended up naming it the Coosa to start with.
It's cool. I fished the Coosa River, and the lakes are all connected to it. Those big Coosa River spots. Super
fertile, man.
Yeah.
Awesome fisheries, no doubt about it.
Where do you live now?
I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, so still in the southeast.
Where are your favorite lakes in that area?
Some of the favorite lakes, gosh, I can't even. I'm gonna be honest here. I don't fish. I can tell you. The last lake I fished was Kentucky Lake for the Kayak Bass Fishing National Championship and Open. And I don't fish a lot of lakes just because I just get so obsessed with the rivers. I mean, I want to go to another river. I want to go explore another one over and over. In the area, we have Lake Norman and Lake Wiley. But when I'm catching, 6, 7, 8, 9-pounders all the time in the river, 10-pounders some as well frequently, it's hard. It's hard to go back and be on a lake.
Yeah,
it really is.
Well, what are your favorite rivers?
The favorite rivers in the area or over the southeast. Actually, I'll just say favorite rivers overall.
Yeah.
So now one of the episodes of my show, Hooked on Wild Waters, which you guys should check out, was shot on the Devil's River.
Okay, Hooked on Wild Waters.
Right, Hooked on Wild Waters.
That's your show.
That's right.
Where can they check that out?
You guys can just check it out at hookedonwildwaters.com. You can also just check it out on YouTube. If you just search Hooked on Wild Waters, and you can go on the channel and subscribe. And it's basically just like it sounds. We fish wild places. So sometimes it's a river because they're wild, but it could be a marsh or a beaver pond or inshore. We do a lot of salt fishing as well. But this whole season has been about river bass, and it's bringing us back to our river discussion. And the first season we fished on the Devil's River. I've done it about 3 times. It's a super remote river in the middle of nowhere, spring-fed. The water looks like you're at the Turks and Caicos, man. It's incredible, just beautiful, turquoise blue. It's got smallmouth in it, largemouth, but it's just desert all around, and just the only greenery you see is the green some trees that line the river that get enough water there. So it's just all these cool colors. It's the orange from the high desert there. It's the blue sky. It's the bright green on the trees. It's the blue water. It's just a beautiful place, Devil's River. It's basically far, far west Texas. It's on the border of, essentially it goes into Lake Amistad. So it's the border of Mexico and Texas. That's a cool one. That's one that's like on, I think, everyone's bucket list if you're a kayak fisherman. I got to get to the Devils. But then I also love fishing the New River, and we shot an episode on the New River this past season. It hasn't aired yet, which, by the way, we air once a month, and it's the last Wednesday of every month. It's a Wild Waters Wednesday, and that'll be coming out probably in a few months on the New River. So New River's a really cool river, great smallmouth.
And that's a West Virginia river, right?
It's West Virginia is where we were. It actually starts in North Carolina, goes up through Virginia, West Virginia, and that's an awesome fishery. Everyone knows about the New River. And then for shoal bass in Georgia. So I grew up in Georgia, and shoal bass is a unique species. Not everyone's caught them. Yeah. And that's a really cool place to go catch them. Obviously, you've got the Flint River, the Ocmulgee River, the Chattahoochee River has them there, and then all the tributaries. I'm not going to talk too detail about tributaries because we know how fishermen are. You get too specific because some of the tribs are pretty small. But it's fun. It's fun for you when you go on a map and you can figure it out and go on satellite imagery and you can find those tribs yourself. It's not like it's hard, but it made you feel like you did a little work and you actually found the place. And no one just told you right where to go. But they can get big in small places, and they fight like a smallmouth pretty much. I'm gonna say smallmouth is 1A and shoal bass is 1B if I had to. Smallmouth are a teeny bit faster and they jump a little higher, but shoal bass are almost just as strong, but they only live in rivers. That's the only place these fish live, and they only live basically in Georgia in the entire world. So it's definitely one to cross off your bucket list as well. And their scientific name is Micropterus cataractae, which means fish of the waterfall. So you can imagine these fish they need a lot of oxygen. That's why they only live in rivers. They don't live in Lake Seminole, even though the Chattahoochee flows into Lake Seminole and the Flint River. So they're just a cool species, but they got a bigger mouth. It's a little bit bigger than a spotted bass or an Alabama bass now, which is technically what they're called. But so they have a bigger mouth like a largemouth, but they live in these crazy rapids and just rocky shoals. So you can throw big, just like for largemouth, big swim baits, humongous 7, 8, 9-inch stuff in the middle of some shallow water in this plunge pool. It's what we call it. And the white water's kind of funneling over into some rapids. It just feels weird. And you're out there, and next thing you know, you just feel that slack just thump. and all that slack, and then she's on. It's just an incredible fish, and they get big. I've caught a couple over 7 pounds.
Wow!
And the state record's like 8.3, and the world record's 8.12. They get huge, and we're very close, I think, to breaking that record. That's one of the only black bass species I can think of that is it's pretty attainable for anybody who wants to go try it. You can get pretty darn close to it. You may not break it, but I mean, how many people are getting close to the largemouth record? You catch a 10, you're thrilled, right?
Yeah, but so that's not close.
No,
of course, there's
close.
Boys out in California right now
right.
with them spotted bass on those lakes out there, able to catch those 10-pounders or 10,
Unreal.
11, 12-pound spotted bass out of control.
Yeah,
but that is really interesting, fishing the shoal bass, and it's interesting that you didn't want to give away the tributaries because it's not fair to the fish.
Sure.
But I've noticed that the kayak anglers operate just a little bit differently than us. Like we seem to keep secrets, man. We don't tell anybody anything. And the kayak group as a whole are real friendly.
They are.
They really are. They just it's like old school bass fishing, and
it really is.
It's like, hey, we're catching them over in the east side of the shore or whatever, and here's the baits we're using.
It's amazing.
It's a different lifestyle a little bit.
It is, and it may be one day when it builds to where you guys are at the bass boat tournament. That's gonna change obviously when purses get huge, but for now it's still cool. And I run a tournament series called the River Bass and Tournament Trail. We have 7 tournament stops this year. We bring about $15,000 in cash and prizes, and it's kind of it's done in a little bit different way. You catch photo release. That's the way the kayak tournaments are done. You take a picture of them, and however many inches your top 3 fish, that's your total score. So you can actually fish within a 60-mile radius. That's the way it works. So in a lake tournament, you launch from the same place. You all have outboards. You go wherever you want. But for us, our outboard is essentially our truck or our vehicle, whatever they're driving. And so we don't have to start from the same spot. But the night before we have a meeting, we go over the rules, and then that night you can go wherever you want. But you just have to be fishing within a 60-mile radius. And the GPS on your phone will tell you, if you're out of bounds or not. So no one can cheat easily. It's, obviously in every bass tournament, there's some way you could probably cheat if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
And as purses get big, maybe we'll see some of that.
Carpenter cheats in all his tournaments.
Oh yeah.
That's a damn lie.
But
if
it's
I did,
pretty
I'd
cool.
probably have some success, right?
Yeah, you would think it'd be.
He's not very good at cheating.
No. Fail.
Right.
But that's the way those are run. And like you said, people are super friendly. They're helpful, and they're willing to give tips. They may not give exact GPS coordinates of where they are, for example, but I think the laid-back nature of how kayak fishing started in the community definitely keeps it a little bit more just super laid back, comfortable, family friendly, especially for beginners to come and join in on the fun. We give away a lot of prizes at random, and that's a lot of fun. And we raise money for charity, give away raffle prizes, have a lot of fun prize categories. We even have a river bass and prize wheel that they spin for anyone who didn't finish in the money, which is like in top 15 in the prizes. They get to spin this wheel, and it's kind of fun because you got some spots on there that are sort of like bankrupt. There's a spot on there that says snagged. A couple of them say snagged. Some of them say skunk. So you had a bad day on the water. Maybe you spin the wheel and you don't win anything, but you could win a prize, or you could have to donate a lure back to our Plano lure jackpot.
Cool.
So if you get snagged, you actually have to go back to your tackle box, go bring a lure, donate it. So it's just a lot of fun. But obviously, there's more spots on the wheel for you to win prizes. Yeah. But it's just a fun, laid-back thing, and we do share and help each other out. And I hope it stays that way as long as it can. But I think there's room within the sport for it to get to a super professional level, just like in the bass world, but then still stay, there's going to be communities and clubs that are still super laid back and just all about the camaraderie. And we're not doing this for a living. Our paychecks, our families aren't on the line, which is going to add a little bit extra pressure and stress and cause people to obviously, if they're competing against somebody else that could take their check, right?
Yeah.
The business world's competitive, right? We're all competitive. We don't just go to our competitors and give them tips and help them out. So it makes sense why it's that way, and it's understandable.
Yeah, well, it's growing, and you guys are here at iCast along with several kayak companies, accessory companies. I notice now that there's that didn't used to happen here at iCast.
Not at
right?
all.
And now kayak fishing has a really, really big presence.
That's right. What is it, like 5 years ago? I think 5 or 6 years ago, kayaks really started. I think we showed up probably 4, maybe 5 years ago for our first show. We had one kayak, that original Kusa.
Yeah.
Maybe I had 3 that first year, but either way, it's just insane, the growth of the sport. It's just insane.
Yeah, it's really, really cool to see. I think it's the fastest growing sect of the bass fishing world for sure. What do you got, Carter?
We got Cole Daniels on the instant message board. What kayak would you suggest for someone who's 5'4", 280 pounds?
5'4", 280. I would say
maybe 6'1", 200.
6'1", 200?
Yeah.
All right. 6'1", 200. Probably. Well, the first question you always have to ask, and this is actually a really good question because it's going to allow me to talk about the people that get in this sport. They're usually fishermen first and not paddlers, so they don't really ask a lot of questions, or they don't really watch a lot of videos on paddling. It's all about the fishing part of it, and then really the paddling part is very important in the whole design and the shape and the width. But the first question really you're always going to ask somebody is, hey man, what kind of waters are you fishing? Is it inshore, offshore? Is for bass fishing, we're going to ask, is it big reservoirs? Is it smaller lakes and ponds? You're looking to put this in a golf course pond, or your buddy's little lake over here, or rivers. That's going to actually help figure out which hole design, which shape on the actual boat we want to get them into, because there's the right tools for the right job. A hammer's not going to nail in a screw, right? So and a jig's not going to work in whatever a certain situation.
Yeah.
So it's always about the right tool, and kayaks are no different. So we're going to ask you first, like, okay, do you fish lakes, big lakes, small lakes? Because if you're on a big lake, you want a very fast kayak that's going to get you to the other side. If it's got a lot of vegetation, you got to consider maybe you don't need a pedal drive if it's a smaller lake or whatever, and there's vegetation, because it'll get caught up in the drive system, and that's got to be something you got to take into account. But speed is important on big lakes, and the maneuverability is more important on rivers, because you got to avoid the obstacles. But when it's all said and done, you also have to think, okay, well, I'm a certain size, so I actually need a kayak that's going to be stable enough for me to get in and stand and fish in. And for at Jackson Kayak, if you're a person that fishes lakes and you're that size, we've got several different models that would work great, and you could probably stand in all of them. But a new one is called the Mayfly. It's actually kind of fly fishing oriented too, but a lot of the conventional guys like it because it's a very clean deck and you can make it your own. So it's a
Gene was commenting
on the
that's
Mayfly.
His favorite.
Yeah, it's a great boat. And then you've also got one called the Coos HD, and that's my signature series model. And the seat moves more forward and back, and you can trim it, make it a little bit better of a river boat. And then a little bit better lake boat when you trim it more forward. And you can stand up in all these. Again, they're super wide and stable. And you also have one called the Cuda HD, which is a little bit more speed. So let's say you are in a bigger lake, you want speed. But again, if you're in rivers, I'm going to steer you towards a person that size. I'm going to steer you towards the Coos HD, because it's going to be a little bit more of a river-focused boat. Okay. But now we have our new flex drive boat, the Coosa FD and the Cruise FD, which have the flex drive system, which is our pedal drive system. And it's super innovative. I mean, it's going to get you where you're going super quick. So if you are in tournaments and you're trying to win money, like every cast counts, right? So if you get to your spot 5 minutes, sooner, that could be the difference, right?
That's a lot of casts.
Check, yeah. So the flex drive is something to look into. And, I mean, there's many options. Like I said before, I would just go check out one of our dealers, your closest dealer. If you go on the Jackson Kayak website, we actually have something called the dealer locator. You can go on there, you'll see a map, see where your closest dealer is, call them up, and basically they're going to be able to put you in a kayak it's going to be the right size for you. They can narrow it down to the best 3 for you with your size and the water types you're fishing, and then you go test them out, take them for a spin, and then just see which one.
What an awesome deal to go for a test drive and check it out. But one of the things that, like, kayaks are new to me, so something that in my mind, I think would be challenging, and maybe you can instruct me and instruct some of our people listening, is how to set the hook in a kayak and how to keep pressure on a fish. Because in my bass boat, I mean, I can use my trolling motor. I can walk back and forth. I can do a lot of things to keep pressure. What are some tips for a kayak angler to help get a good hook set and keep pressure on those fish? One
of the things that I do is I'm a big power fisherman. I fish some finesse, but very much just fast-moving lures. They're aggressive in the river, so they're going to hit that stuff. I can cover more water. It's pretty obvious they're hiding behind the rocks of out of the current, right, or the logs. So I can just sit there and move fast. So I typically throw a lot of braided line. That's kind of what I'm getting at, which helps with the hook set, right? Straight to braid. That's kind of all you need. But
good sense.
The kayaks are wide and stable enough, and basically if the kayak is going the length of this table here, you always want to be, have your kayak facing where you're setting that hook if you're going to be really laying into a fish with something that's got stretch like monofilament, because when you go back on it, you're fine. But if I were to be facing you guys here, my kayak's this way and I'm going this way, it's like in a canoe. If you're going, you don't really want to do that. The other thing you have to learn is just to simply use more of a just simple wrist and shoulder, just sort of forearm, just more of a snap, just quick, just snap, and you'll get it. I mean, eventually, at first it may be a little bit different, but that's kind of what we do. Is just a quicker snap, or make sure we're facing a little bit more forward, or knowing which direction you need to be pulling, setting that hook to make sure it's going to go with the stability of the kayak. Because I can definitely see how a lot of you guys out there may think, man, you're just going to flip right over. I flipped over setting a hook when I was 10 years old in a canoe with my dad, doing that exact same thing. Here's our canoe, and I just was so really wanting to set the hook on this bass. When you feel them, you get so excited when you're 10. And I just went hard. We were at a golf course pond, so it's funny. All the golfers are just watching this. Stuff's floating everywhere. They're waiting to hit. Like, come on, guys. So that's good.
I think we've all done that at some point. But
that's right.
But that's it's great answer to the question. And the Jackson is here at iCast. Did you have anything new that you're launching here this week? Any new products or anything you want to talk about?
We do. We've got a new one called the Cruise FD. It's our same flex drive, we call it, which is our pedal drive system. It's super versatile, and the Cruise is basically a less expensive version. Doesn't have all the bells and whistles of the Coosa FD, but that's actually a good thing for some people, because maybe you don't need all the accessories and bells and whistles that the Coosa FD comes with. It's a little bit narrower kayak, this Cruise FD is. It's a little bit shorter, and maybe you just didn't need that much kayak. Maybe you're not quite a big enough guy that needs as much kayak. Like me, I'm a smaller guy. I would actually prefer the size of the Cruise FD, because again, it's lighter weight, easier to transport. Like, why take more kayak and more weight than you have to when when you're transporting kayaks? You're wheeling them. If you got wheels, you're wheeling them places. You're carrying them. You're dragging them. So the Cruise FD is pretty sweet. We may have some new stuff out soon. Can't really talk about it now, but may have some other stuff coming that's a little teaser.
Yeah.
You may want to stick around.
When is that going to be launched? Is that going to be next year? Or you got something coming
in
the fall?
Yeah, we're still there's. The Outdoor Retailers trade show comes up, and then there's also a new paddle sports industry trade show. So generally launches will, follow those trade shows. But I'm excited about some of that stuff we've been working on for a while. And Jackson Kayak's all about innovation, and that's what we've always stressed. Like, we have enough cool, innovative ideas in our heads. So why every year when we have a new product come out, let's put some of that new stuff on it. So there's some new innovative stuff coming out, and I'm really excited to share with you guys more about that. Maybe we can do something in the future. I really want to get connected and do more stuff with you guys at Bass U.
We certainly like it, because a lot of our students are kayak anglers, and the lessons, the patterns, the techniques are the same. There's a little bit about the execution that's different, and that's pretty much the only difference there. But we'd love we love great companies like you guys, and innovative companies. It's terrific. We want to expose all of our students to those types of products. So.
Sure.
But I appreciate you being here with us today. Are there any other IM questions out there before we move on? As they're considering whether or not your questions are good enough to.
Yeah, tips for the wind.
Tips for the wind.
Dealing with wind.
Yeah. So what I do, the cool thing about a kayak is the fact that you can. You can get real close to the shore. On a bass boat, you can certainly get close, but if you're fishing with a partner, who likes to get front-ended, right? That's not fun. You're sitting there, and the guy in the back's like, man, you're right on the bank, just parallel on the structure. I mean, I'm kind of hosed back here. With a kayak, you're by yourself. Obviously, there are tandems, but generally you're by yourself. So staying out of the wind, I stay right up against the shore, because that's where I like to fish anyway, and just parallel the structure. Keeping your lure in the strike zone for as long as you can is obviously a win by the structure. So that's one thing I do to stay out of the wind. The other thing you need to do if you happen to be fishing more offshore, in the middle of the lake, you certainly want to put your seat in the low position. Most all these kayaks now have high seats and low seats, and that was one of the cool things we brought to the industry with that first kayak, the Coosa, was the cool camp chair style seat. Sit you high, sit you low. Definitely put it in the low position, and get a kayak that's if you can, that's a lower profile. Some of them are pretty tall and bulky.
Right.
Lower profile, like that Mayfly is a real good example. It almost looks like it's a stand-up paddleboard. It's very low profile. It's going to catch less wind. You always want to be facing into the wind. So if you are using a pedal drive and you can continue your motion, while you're fishing, keep it steered kind of straight into the wind. And that way you'll hold that spot. If you get turned sideways with the wind, now you've got the whole broad side of that kayak to blow you like a sail. So stay right into the wind. And if I'm on rivers, again, it's the same thing. I'm always right on the bank. There's even if there's a little bit of brush, it's going to block the wind a little bit. Just hug it. I mean, you're foot off the bank. You're right there. And again, that's where I want to be to catch the fish anyway. So it keeps me out of the wind.
Great tips. Great questions. Thanks for that. I think I see JT Kenny sitting back there, and JT's going to be next up here at Bass U Live, and we're definitely going to be talking with him. But Drew, I appreciate you taking the time to come and be with us here on Bass Live.
No problem.
And I want to invite everybody to go check out Wild Waters.
Yeah, go check it out. HookedOnWildWaters.com.
Yeah.
Or just search it on YouTube. Find us at JacksonKayak.com. You can check out the kayaks there. And, hey, you're welcome to come to a river bassin tournament. It's low entry fees and lots of fun. If you want to learn about river bassin kayak fishing, come see me. And my wife, she travels with me, and our 3 dogs. It's crazy, all in one, in one RV.
Yeah.
We'll be there having a good time along the tour. We got, I want to say, 5 tournaments left all around the country. So go check it out at riverbassintrail.com.
Well, definitely check that out. Go check out a Jackson Kayak. Take one for a test drive,
Why
Carpenter. Just take it for the weekend. Go check it out. They build some of the best kayaks in the world. I appreciate you being here with us, Drew. We will be back with JT Kenny in just a little while with some more Bass University Live.
All right.